Hello again, I'm Peter Mueller, the CTO at Advanced Technologies and Services, and this is our second video in the series of burstable billing accuracy. In our first video, we talked about how we could set up a control point and control network of using our stamper boxes to emulate what your customers are doing on your network and look at how accurate your 95th percentile billing would be. We tended to find a couple of errors across the board when we look at this. One is sometimes values are systemically low, which means that the stamper box is telling us that the recording in a 5-minute period should be actually higher than what's being recorded in the network. That's a problem, and we'll look at that in a little more detail today in terms of identifying and quantifying what that could mean. The second thing we find over and over again is that not every carrier is able to record all values that they need to every 5 minutes. So even if the values themselves are accurate, if you're missing values throughout the month, that's going to have an impact on your bill at the end of the month, because you need 100% of recordings to know exactly where the 95th percentile should be. And if you're missing traffic at these high watermark levels in the busy hours, you're going to have a much more serious impact on the bill than if you miss them where they're low. So today we'll talk about setting up control points or revenue assurance in this area and discuss ongoing root cause and prevention. Okay, so let's take a look at the first issue. The math can get a little wonky, but conceptually it's actually pretty simple. At the end of the month, the biller's job is to take all the recordings that they've recorded off the network during the month and to rank them from low to high. And of course, what we're most interested in here is speeds, recorded every 5 minutes. So what we typically see, and is very common, is that your users will have some amount of very low usage, quite a bit of sort of medium usage, and then there's, of course, it ranks the very high speeds are less often, but they can go quite high. Now, what we're interested in and looking at, of course, is the commit rate, right? So if the commit rate is at this level, then clearly, and the 95th percentile is drawn this way. If this is the top 5% of traffic, then your users that are here will necessarily go higher if the recordings are adjusted to be correct or recorded correctly the first time. That's one big gain. The other big gain is that users who were previously under the commit mark may now be pushed over it. So as these users come up because of proper recordings that are being continuously checked through the stamper network, we'll see additional revenue here. And we've seen traffic, when properly recorded, generate upwards of an extra $4 million a month. So there potentially is a lot of revenue for carriers doing this to fix the underlying issues with their root cause billing problems. Okay, so back to issue 2, which is missing time slots. We'll draw our graph yet again, but this time we'll do it over time and look at speeds. And what we expect to see, of course, is that there's a pattern to most of your customers' usage, where there's high points of the day and low points of the day. And that's to be expected. Now, if we're missing time slots, what that means is that some of these are just not there in coming off the mediation platform. And you could imagine that, missing times and maybe in the middle of the night might not matter, but the ones at the top would. So if we're getting all this traffic in near real time, there's a couple things we can do. We can use more modern techniques like machine learning to estimate what would have been there, and that helps us quantify the business value proposition of this. The other thing we can do, is, again, if we're getting traffic in near real time, is we can spot these problems early in the bill cycle. So if midway through the month you've been missing a lot of these time slots, then we can sound an alarm and hopefully get network to fix the root cause problem before the end of the month. That will have a positive impact on the billing. The other thing we can do is we can step back from this and say, are there times perhaps where it's one particular router that is constantly missing traffic? And what we've seen, and we have a hunch, that sometimes routers are so overburdened with serving traffic fail to produce the right billing records. Now think about that for a minute. At exactly the moment where you're trying to catch high usage could be the moment that your router is not able to create the billing records. So we step back from this and we involve the network group, and they may want to help regroom the network to put known high users on their own router, or at least not have them all concentrated on one. So the robustness of the polling platform, the regrooming, all part of our ongoing network management, root cause analysis, and prevention in the future plan. So let's step back and take a look at what we've done. We've talked about how we could deploy a hardware-based solution to your network to do a quick test of whether your recordings are actually correct or not. If your recordings are too low, there's a revenue impact, and we talked about how we can monitor that going forward. If, on the other hand, or if as well, your recordings aren't all there, we talked about how we could backfill in those recordings and guess at what the revenue could be, and discuss the need for an ongoing monitoring platform. So stepping back from all of this, we've presented, we think, a fairly holistic way to test the validity of your 95.5 billing and to put in places the kinds of controls and root cause and prevention going forward to make sure that this whole process works from end to end. Thank you for watching. We'd obviously welcome any further discussion about this, and we look forward to hearing from you.